The breaking point. The crystalline halls of the Galactic Assembly Station reflected light from 1,000 different star systems, each beam carefully calibrated to remind every species present of the vastness of civilized space. Ambassador Marcus Rivera walked through these halls with measured steps, his worn diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garb of the other representatives flowing past him. 5 years representing Earth in this place had taught him to read the subtle signs of alien body language, and today, every species he passed seemed to lean away from him. Marcus had received the summons only 6 hours ago. The inner circle of the Galactic Assembly, the 5 species that controlled 90% of known space, demanded Earth's immediate presence. No explanation given, no agenda provided, just a command that expected obedience. The human ambassador's jaw tightened as he approached the massive doors of the central chamber. Behind those doors waited beings who had conquered stars when humanity was still learning to make fire. They viewed Earth as little more than an amusing pet that had learned a few tricks. The doors parted silently, revealing a chamber that could have held a small city. At its center, elevated on platforms that emphasized their authority, sat the inner circle. The Cathari Dominion's representative, a creature of living crystal that shifted between solid and energy states, pulsed with colors that indicated disgust. The Void Dancers, beings who existed partially in subspace, flickered in and out of visible reality, their contempt somehow tangible despite their ethereal nature. The Machinist Collective's ambassador was a fusion of organic and synthetic components, billions of nanomachines forming a vaguely humanoid shape that constantly rebuilt itself. The Eternal Empire's delegate, a member of a species that claimed to predate the current universe, sat motionless with eyes that had witnessed the birth and death of galaxies. Finally, the Harmony of Minds, a telepathic gestalt consciousness inhabiting a coral-like structure, hummed with the thoughts of 1 trillion connected beings. Marcus took his position at the designated platform for junior species, a small circle on the floor that forced him to look up at the elevated council members. He noticed the chamber was fuller than usual. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered to witness whatever was about to happen. The realization hit him like a physical blow. This was not a private reprimand. This was meant to be a public humiliation. The Cathari representative's crystalline form rang like a bell, signaling the beginning of proceedings. Its voice resonated through the chamber, translated into every language simultaneously. The human designated Marcus Rivera will hear the judgment of the inner circle regarding Earth's continued membership in galactic civilization. Marcus kept his expression neutral, though his heart rate increased. The Earth Federation is honored to receive the Council's wisdom, he said, following the required protocol even as the words tasted bitter. The Void Dancer flickered into full visibility, its form a constantly shifting shadow that hurt to look at directly. Humanity has been observed for 5 solar rotations since achieving faster than light travel. Your species shows dangerous tendencies toward chaos and unpredictability. Your expansion rate exceeds approved parameters by 300%. The Machinist Collective's billions of components rearrange themselves into a new configuration as it spoke. Human technology develops along unauthorized paths. You refuse to adopt standard galactic systems. Your artificial intelligence research violates 17 different council regulations. Your genetic modification programs ignore established ethical boundaries. Marcus wanted to argue that those regulations and boundaries were designed to keep younger species dependent on the inner circle's technology, but he remained silent. The formal charges were still being read. The Eternal Empire's representative finally moved, its ancient eyes focusing on Marcus with the weight of eons. Most concerning is humanity's refusal to accept its designated role in the galactic hierarchy. You trade directly with other junior species without using council intermediaries. You share technological innovations without proper licensing through council channels. You have even begun teaching other species your chaotic approaches to problem solving. The accusation hung in the air. Earth's real crime was not following the rules that kept the inner circle in power. Humanity had been building alternative networks, creating connections that bypassed the established order. They had been caught trying to change a system that had remained static for millennia. The Harmony of Minds pulsed with synchronized thought, its choral structure glowing as 1,000 voices spoke as one. The Council has decided. Earth will accept the following terms or face complete isolation from galactic society. First, all human military vessels will be decommissioned except for a defensive force of no more than 50 ships. Second, human colonies will be limited to a radius of 20 light-years from Earth. Third, all human technological development will be supervised by Council observers. Fourth, humanity will cease all unauthorized trade and teaching activities. Fifth, Earth will pay reparations equivalent to 1 trillion galactic credits for disrupting established order. The chamber fell silent, waiting for Marcus's response. The terms were not just harsh. They were designed to reduce humanity to eternal servitude. Earth would become nothing more than a vassal state, its creativity and drive crushed under bureaucratic control. Marcus thought of his daughter back on Earth, just starting university, dreaming of exploring the stars. He thought of the colonies humanity had built through sweat and determination, the trade partnerships they had forged with other struggling species, the innovations that had begun to spread hope to corners of the galaxy, long forgotten by the inner circle. Marcus straightened his shoulders and met the gaze of each council member in turn. I have been authorized by the Earth Federation to respond to any council ultimatum. He reached into his uniform and pulled out a small device, Earth's formal diplomatic seal. The United Earth Federation respectfully declines the council's terms. The silence that followed was absolute. No species had ever refused the inner circle's demands. It was unthinkable. Marcus continued before the shock could wear off. Furthermore, Earth hereby withdraws from the Galactic Assembly effective immediately. We will pursue our own path among the stars. The Cathari representative's crystalline form cracked, a sound like breaking glass echoing through the chamber. You cannot be serious. Without access to Council trade networks, navigation databases, and protection agreements, Earth will collapse within a solar year. Marcus nodded. Perhaps. But we would rather fail as free beings than succeed as slaves. The Void Dancer's form became a storm of shadows. You doom your entire species with this pride. When your ships break down, when your colonies starve, when hostile forces attack your worlds, the Council will not help. We never expected you to, Marcus replied. Humanity has always survived by helping itself. The Machinist Collective's components spun into an agitated pattern. This decision is illogical. No mathematical model supports survival without Council resources. Marcus actually smiled at that. Then your models don't account for human stubbornness. The Eternal Empire's representative stood slowly, its movement causing ripples in space-time itself. Little human, you have no concept of what you are choosing. The void between stars is filled with dangers you cannot imagine, ancient things that even we avoid. Your species will be extinct before it learns the price of this foolish independence. The harmony of minds pulsed with angry red light. The Council's decision is final. Earth is hereby expelled from all galactic institutions. Any species that trades with humanity will face immediate sanctions. Any vessel that assists human ships will be destroyed. Earth stands alone. Marcus turned to leave, then paused. You know, for beings that claim to be so advanced, you've forgotten something important. Humans have always been at our best when standing alone against impossible odds. We call it the underdog spirit. You're about to learn what that means. As Marcus walked out of the chamber, he heard the uproar beginning behind him. Representatives of smaller species were arguing, some protesting the harshness of the Council's decision. Others were already calculating how to profit from humanity's absence. But Marcus didn't look back. He had a message to send to Earth. Humanity was about to enter the darkest chapter of its stellar history, but somehow, that didn't frighten him. It excited him. The walk back to the human diplomatic ship felt like the longest and shortest journey of his life. Captain Jennifer Walsh was waiting at the airlock, her face grim. Ambassador? How did it go? Marcus handed her the diplomatic seal. Set course for Earth, Captain. Maximum speed. The meeting's over already? But you've only been gone an hour. The meeting's over, and so is our membership in the Galactic Assembly. We're on our own now. Captain Walsh's eyes widened, but then something else appeared in her expression. Not fear, but determination. Understood, sir. Earth it is. As their ship departed from the station, Marcus stood at the observation window watching the massive structure shrink into the distance. The Council thought they had just signed humanity's death warrant. They had no idea they had just unleashed something far more dangerous. Human ingenuity with nothing left to lose. The return 5 years. That's how long the galaxy had enjoyed what the inner circle called the piece of human absence. Trade coordinator Vexhai of the Merchant Guild had even written a widely circulated report on how much more efficiently resources flowed without human interference. The Ketheri Dominion had absorbed 3 former human colonies, finding them abandoned but still functional. The Void Dancers had claimed the navigation routes humanity had pioneered, selling access at premium prices. The Machinist Collective had reverse-engineered several human innovations, patenting them under council law. The Eternal Empire had declared the human experiment a cautionary tale about species that evolved too quickly. The Harmony of Minds had unanimously agreed that the galaxy was better off. They were all wrong. The first sign came from a monitoring station on the edge of council space. A young Altarian sensor operator named Crix noticed an anomaly in the cosmic background radiation. Something was moving in the void between stars. Something massive, but it wasn't using any known form of faster-than-light travel. The signature was unlike anything in the databases. Crix filed a routine report that was promptly ignored. After all, nothing important ever came from the empty sectors where humanity had retreated. The second sign was the sudden silence from 3 pirate fleets that had been raiding former human space. The criminal organizations had grown bold, knowing the council wouldn't waste resources protecting abandoned human colonies. Then, one by one, they simply stopped reporting back. Their bases went dark. Their ships vanished without distress signals. The criminal underworld began whispering about ghost ships in the void, about impossible weapons that turned matter into energy and energy into nothing. The third sign was the one that finally got the Inner Circle's attention. A Ketheri battle group, the pride of their fleet, encountered something at the edge of what had been human space. The commander's last transmission was barely coherent. They're not using jump drives. They're folding space itself. By the ancient stars, how many are there? Then nothing. A fleet of 300 warships gone without a trace. Now in the same crystalline chamber where humanity had been expelled 5 years ago, the Inner Circle convened an emergency session. The atmosphere was different this time. Where there had been arrogance, now there was uncertainty. Where there had been dismissiveness, now there was fear. The Void Dancer's form writhed with agitation. The energy signatures are impossible. They suggest humanity has developed technology that operates outside our understanding of physics. The Machinist Collective's components formed defensive patterns. Our analysis indicates they are not using any element from the periodic table we recognize. They have either discovered new matter or created it. The Eternal Empire's representative, for the first time in recorded history, looked troubled. The ancient archives speak of species that chose isolation and returned changed, but never this quickly, never this dramatically. The Harmony of Minds pulsed with discordant thoughts. We are detecting quantum entanglement communications across thousands of light years. Instantaneous coordination. They have overcome the light speed barrier for information transfer. The Ketheri representative's crystalline form had never fully healed from the day Marcus Rivera had shocked them all. The cracks now pulsed with nervous energy. What do we know about their current status? The answer came not from any council member, but from the chamber's main display. It activated without anyone's authorization, showing a simple message. The Earth Federation requests permission to address the Galactic Assembly. The Inner Circle exchanged glances of disbelief. Earth was asking to talk? After 5 years of silence, after developing impossible technology, after destroying a Ketheri battle group, they wanted to talk? The Eternal Empire's representative made the decision. Permission granted. The display shifted and a human appeared. But it was not Marcus Rivera. This was a woman in her 30s, wearing a uniform that seemed to be made of shifting light. Behind her was visible what looked like the bridge of a ship, but the technology was unrecognizable. Surfaces flowed like liquid while maintaining solid form. Displays showed information in dimensions that shouldn't exist. And the crew visible in the background weren't all human. There were species there that the council didn't recognize, beings that looked like they had evolved in environments where the laws of physics worked differently. Members of the Galactic Assembly, the woman began, her voice carrying an authority that made even ancient beings pay attention. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Federation Stellar Navy. 5 years ago, you expelled humanity from your society. You expected us to fail, to come crawling back, begging for readmission. Instead, we thank you. The Inner Circle members shifted uncomfortably. This was not how they had expected this conversation to begin. Admiral Chen continued. Your isolation forced us to innovate. Your blockade taught us self-reliance. Your rejection freed us from the constraints of your limited thinking. In 5 years, we have advanced more than we did in the previous 50 under your guidance. The display behind her changed, showing star charts that made no sense. There were stars there that didn't exist in any council database. Regions of space that should be empty but were filled with activity. You assumed the void between stars was empty, hostile, worthless. But that's because you only looked in 3 dimensions. Humanity found something else out there. Other beings, other civilizations existing in parallel spaces you never thought to explore. We didn't just survive in isolation. We thrived. We made friends. We built alliances with species that exist in quantum superposition. With beings made of dark matter. With civilizations that navigate through dimensions you haven't discovered. The Void Dancer's form began to collapse and reform repeatedly, a sign of extreme distress. This is impossible. We mapped everything. Admiral Chen smiled. You mapped everything you could see, but humans have always been good at finding what others overlook. Which brings me to why we're contacting you now. The display changed again and every member of the inner circle felt their equivalent of blood run cold. Ships. Thousands of them. But not just human ships. These were vessels that defied conventional design, some appearing to be made of crystallized time, others phasing in and out of reality, some that were clearly bigger on the inside than the outside, and at the center of this fleet a human dreadnought that dwarfed anything the Council had ever built. 1,000 warships, Admiral Chen said simply. Though warship doesn't really describe what they are. They're something new. Something that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Something that makes your entire fleet obsolete. The Cathari representative found its voice. You're threatening us? No, Chen replied. We're offering you a choice. The same choice you gave us 5 years ago, but in reverse. You can accept the new reality. That humanity and its allies are now a power equal to or greater than your inner circle. You can engage with us as equals. Trade with us fairly and benefit from what we've learned. Or you can choose isolation. You can maintain your old systems, your old hierarchies, your old limitations, but you'll do it without access to what we've discovered. The harmony of minds pulsed frantically. You cannot dictate terms to the Council. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. We're not dictating anything. We're simply informing you that the galaxy has changed. There are new trade routes through dimensions you don't know exist. New resources from planes of reality you can't access. New allies from spaces you can't perceive. Humanity is building a new kind of galactic civilization, one based on exploration and innovation rather than control and stagnation. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. The Earth Federation's fleet will arrive at the assembly station in 72 hours. Not to attack, but to establish an embassy. Any species that wishes to engage with the new reality we've discovered is welcome to send representatives. The inner circle is invited, but your attendance is not required. The galaxy will move forward with or without you. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. The display showed the fleet beginning to move, space itself bending around them in ways that violated everything the Council knew about physics. The Eternal Empire's representative spoke first. In all my eons of existence, I have never seen a species evolve this rapidly. The Machinist Collective's components formed patterns of calculation. If their claims are true, everything we know about the universe is incomplete. The Void Dancer had stopped flickering, frozen in a single state of shock. They found others in the void. Others we never detected. The Cathari representative's crystalline form rang with a different tone now, one of resignation rather than authority. We expelled them to maintain our power. Instead, we freed them to surpass us. The harmony of mind spoke with rare individuality. Different voices expressing different thoughts. Some of us wish to send representatives. Others fear what humanity has become. We are divided. As the inner circle debated, throughout the galaxy, smaller species were already preparing to send ambassadors to the human embassy. The promise of new opportunities, new technologies, new frontiers was too powerful to resist. The static hierarchy that had defined galactic civilization for millennia was crumbling. On the bridge of the Earth Federation dreadnought Phoenix Rising, Admiral Sarah Chen stood watching the stars. Beside her stood beings that the Council would have called impossible. A creature of living mathematics from a dimension where thought had mass, an entity of pure quantum probability that existed in all states simultaneously until observed, and Marcus Rivera, now serving as humanity's chief diplomatic officer. His hair gray, but his eyes still sharp. Think they'll accept? Marcus asked. Sarah smiled. Doesn't matter. The other species will come regardless. The inner circle can either adapt or become irrelevant. Either way, humanity's not asking for permission anymore. Through the windows of the Phoenix Rising, space itself seemed different. Where once there had been empty void, now there were ribbons of light connecting stars in patterns that followed no three-dimensional logic. Humanity had not just survived its exile. It had discovered that the universe was far stranger, far more wonderful, and far more full of potential than anyone had imagined. The 1,000 warships moved through space like a promise and a warning combined. Earth had walked away from the Council as a junior species begging for acceptance. It returned as the herald of a new age, whether the old powers were ready or not.